Hello, and welcome to Marathon Swim Stories, where we connect with marathon swimmers around the world to find out how they got started, what makes them tick, and why they keep going. It's where we explore the human side of the superhuman feats of endurance swimmers, the connections that we have with each other, our support crew, and the waters we cross. If you've ever stood at the edge of a body of water and wondered what it would be like to swim to the other side, you're in good company. I'm Shannon Keegan, marathon swimmer, water relationship coach, and founder of Intrepid Water, where I virtually teach swimming freedom. Freedom to get started, shed the confines of the pool, or your preconceived notions of what's possible. Find out more at intrepidwater.com. Hello. Today, I'm excited to share with you the Marathon Swim Stories Summer Series. It's been a bit of a busy summer for me as the world's opening back up. I can't always track people down for interviews, so I thought it would be fun to do a remix of some of the questions asked of guests in season 1. I hope that you'll enjoy this series. I look forward to some fresh conversations around September. Until then, I always love to hear from you. You can drop me a line anytime, shannon@intrepidwater.com. And as always, thank you for listening. Please tell your friends about the podcast, share these amazing stories, and just keep swimming. Where is your favorite place to swim?
First, I have to congratulate you. Your questions are awesome. They're epic. And so it's interesting. I thought about it. And I have to say, I've swum in some of the most amazing places, as all of you have. And the more I think about it, I don't know that I could pick one favorite place. I think because when I thought about it, it has so much to do with why I'm swimming, where I'm swimming, who I'm swimming with, if I'm by myself or with a group. And I'm also there's certain parts of the day that I love to swim. I love the afternoon sun. I just love when that sun is setting and I can see it on my shoulders and I'm swimming. So I could be swimming in the crappiest lake, dodging logs and leaves, or in a big ocean, but it's that time of the day and the people that I'm with. So I can't really pick a favorite, although some of the places I've swum are just exquisite. And I know there's a million that I haven't swum in yet. So I think I would have to say my favorite thing is who I'm swimming with and when I'm swimming. I won't pick a body of water. So I kind of didn't answer your question.
That's okay.
I refuse to answer.
Well, it always was hands down La Jolla Cove, but in the last couple of years, the seals have kind of taken over the little beach there. And when they're in residence, it smells badly and the water is polluted. But like, we've been going out in January on Martin Luther King weekend, and the tides are really rough and the seals aren't there. So the water is great. Tracy has gone the last 2 years, and it's still my favorite place to swim. My favorite place to race is the Hudson River. Even when it's beating you up, you got the current with you. It will push you like you wouldn't believe. I still tell Janine she had an 11-minute mile when she swam Manhattan when she was in the Hudson. So the Hudson is a great place to swim.
Is that swimming or flying, Mark?
It's kind of like a torture fest. You know, the year I completed Manhattan, we had 35-mile-an-hour headwinds in the Hudson, and I just put my head down and just let the river do the work, because I wasn't gonna be able to swim fast. My favorite scar swim is Canyon, which is beautiful. And today's picture on Facebook is Cottasole Beach in Perth, which is probably about the prettiest beach I've ever swum at, but it's full of jellies.
My favourite place to swim here, so probably a couple of places. Where I live now, there's a loch 15 minutes from the house, Loch Tay. It's 15 miles long. It's not the warmest place. In the summer, it goes up to 12, 13 degrees centigrade is the max it goes to. But yeah, it's just a beautiful place to go and swim.
Is that where you swim? Like, do a lot of your training swims, or?
Yeah, so that's my main training bit. There's a beach that we could go in and do laps across, especially when the water's colder. Once it gets warmer, you can swim up the shore, and there's kind of a 10k loop that you can do to do training. Sometimes my dad just comes out in a boat and we just go up for a couple of hours, turn around and come back. Other local spots, there's a river, the big river that comes through the village I stay in. Further down, there's a bit that you could go and swim. So my mum used to just go and sit and do her knitting on the bench, and I swam underneath her at the river and just don't move for a couple of hours. And then when I first started swimming outside as a kid in Dundee, there was a harbour where we used to train and do woods across the harbour as kids as our training. So that's kind of where all my training has been around.
My favorite place to swim is the one where I can swim right now. No, Aquatic Park and Tahoe are probably my favorite places. Tahoe because it's the site of my first failure, my first success, and Aquatic Park because it's so familiar. Yeah. Most people have swum in Aquatic Park that I can see. I know.
I'm coming.
And it's not glamorous, but it's a great venue for so many things.
I spend a lot of time in the gravel pond at Chatfield here in Denver. It's like 900 meters by 300 meter little pond in Denver, but I couldn't even count the hours that I spend there. It's a pretty special little place and, kind of in the middle of Denver. So, I'm very partial to Chatfield. There's some really beautiful high altitude lakes here in Colorado that, I love to get into. Water's really clear, really cold. So, some special places there. I grew up, my grandparents had like this little cabin on a lake in Oklahoma, and it's like hot, the water's like 90 degrees in July. But that's one of my favorite places to be, out on the water with family. So there's just, a lot of good bodies of water out there. I had a friend a while back, he made me make my top 10 places to swim. My top 10 favorite lakes. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life is pick 10.
Can't I have 100? There's
right?
so much water.
There's so many.
Yeah.
Right. And what if I find somewhere new? I can't pick now. You ask me again when I'm 100.
Yeah, exactly.
I love doing granny swimming anywhere. Where do you know what I'm talking about? Where you may not even put on a swim cap and you tie your hair up on the top and you just are heads above the water and you're just, I let my bio preen float me and you're just sort of just experiencing and being in the water and it's not necessarily like you're trying to go anywhere. And you're just watching and letting the water rush over you. So that's pretty much anytime I can do that anywhere. It's pretty amazing. I've been back to the English Channel 3 times. So I think that speaks volume. There's definitely some in the Ocean 7 that I probably will never go back to. But I've gone back to quite a few places. I really love swimming up in Alaska. The community up there is really amazing. So I've done the Pennock Island Challenge quite a few times. They were probably my real first intro into the cold water swimming community. And they just opened their arms and brought me in. And I knew nothing. I mean, nothing. They were talking about hypothermia. And I was like, okay, well, what are the signs of that? Before I got in for the race. So that's always held a special place.
I think it has to be Loch Shiel. Yeah, it's just such a spectacular place. It's kind of surrounded by hills, and you've also got the famous Harry Potter viaduct. So if you go out, you can actually watch the steam train going across the viaduct from the middle of the loch.
Wow.
It's so beautiful. It's just the light on the different, the hills, and when it's snowing, and yeah, it's just a lovely place.
Hello, Marathon Swim Story listeners. If you enjoy the stories of marathon swimmers as much as I do, you have got to check out the book, One Stroke at a Time, by South African marathon swimmer and coach, Sue Ush. Use code MSS10 to get 10% off the ebook. Head over to swimfast.co and click on ebook to order your copy. That discount code again is MSS10. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Tell us about one of your all-time favorite events that you've participated in.
It's funny. I think my first favorite was when I did my very first open water swim. I still love that swim. That was the Statue of Liberty. And I kind of did that on a dare. And a friend of mine said, you can swim around the Statue of Liberty. And I had never even seen the Statue of Liberty. And that's just still a moment in my brain that I'll never forget. And I, stopping under her feet and looking up, and it was just the most amazing thing I've ever experienced in my life. With Manhattan in the background. I love swimming around Manhattan. I love the swims I've done around Manhattan. But I think the one that I did the most, I did the North Channel in July, and that was great. But I'll tell you, I went and I did Ned Denison's camp in Cork. I love swimming in Ireland, around that little island in Sandy Cove. Yep. So I think that was probably my favorite. And again, the people. It was the people that really make it, and not just the swimmers, the little kids that are sitting on the wall watching us do what we do.
Wow.
And like the little ladies that serve us sandwiches, and that's why that made it so cool. Absolutely loved it. Yeah.
So that was Cork Distance Week
That's Cork Distance Week, yeah. But you can go even, the funny thing is, and that again is what I love about the open water community, and I think all of us do. I love getting in touch with the fact that there are people that do this all around the world. You don't know their names. They're not big swimmers. They're just ordinary people. I mean, that's what I want to be. I want to be that 90-year-old woman who toddles down to the lake and jumps in, and people just look at you and go, who is that woman, In Cork, in Kinsale, where Ned has that, there's a whole culture. You just see families going down and swimming there. And that's why I think I love it so much. They don't really care who you are. They're just swimming.
Yeah.
And just lovely. It's lovely, lovely, lovely experience.
That was a long time ago. I did all the events. Over recent years, I've done less and less events. I've swam, for the last 20 to 30 years, open water. Recently, Scar's probably the one that stands out. So my two probably favourite events overall throughout the whole time I've swam is probably Scar and Loch Earn in Ireland. Scar is amazing. Like, I met Mark and a few others in the room, Molly and stuff, at Scar. And I did Catalina the year before, and Becky, who was on my boat, had talked me into or encouraged me to go to Scar, and I've been back and done it again since then. And I just think just the way everybody helps each other out, just as a bit of a road trip, it's not so serious. The events in Scotland, it's all about performance, it's all about speed, it's all about the fast guys. Most of our swims are wetsuit compulsory because of the rules. So for me, Scar was a breath of fresh air and kind of motivated me to get back into it, because a lot of the stuff I do is solo swims. Most of the stuff now I do is all solo, and Scar's just quite nice because it just makes you feel like you belong somewhere, whereas I'm kind of looked at like a freak half the time, the stuff that I do, because there isn't many of us here do what I do. So yeah, so I'd say Scar. And Loch Earn in Ireland, as I say, it was my first long swim. I've done that swim 14, 15 times now, and yeah, it's just a lovely swim.
Yeah, see, that's hard because they're all like my children, like it's hard to pick. I mean, I don't have children, but I have cats, and, you like them in different ways. And, I think it's hard to single out a particular one. I think if I had to choose one, I would probably say like Ponderay because it was something I really wasn't sure I could do. It was 32.3 miles, which for me was a step up in distance. It hadn't been done before, so I wasn't even certain whether it could be done. I think on that swim, I just had such incredible support from the local community. And I really felt like I connected with people who weren't part of marathon swimming. They were just enthusiasts of the lake and the local region and stuff. And, it was just a really, really special experience to be part of that and to kind of see, again, like I said, a part of the world that, I would have never dreamed to go to Northern Idaho for any other reason other than to see this big lake. And now it's like my lake, and that was a really cool experience. Yeah, there was a videographer who came along with us, and he put together a little 5-minute film about the swim, and that's like a really cherished artifact that I have from that swim. I think he did a beautiful job capturing what it was about and why we were out there.
I found out, I didn't know about SCAR. I had heard of the Tampa Bay Marathon Swim. And so I started training for that. And in the process of training for that, I met this guy at Lifetime Fitness that he would train outdoors all winter with no heater. And I was like, I bet I could do that. Let me try that. So I started swimming outside with him. And then eventually, I guess he's like, this girl's not going away. So we started talking and he started telling me about SCAR. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sign up for that. I did. And it's like, I met a lot of people and learned a lot about events. That's how I discovered the Boston Lighthouse Swim, is because I think Kent put it on his website. And so I signed up for that too. And I was actually supposed to swim. I mean, everybody had heard of the English Channel and I'd signed up for that, but I just wasn't in the right place to be able to do it at that point. So I skipped it that year in 2017. So I ended up doing SCAR and the Boston Lighthouse that year. So
probably Lake Zurich, actually. Lake Zurich in Switzerland. So
and those are, so I was kind of trying to distinguish like a place that you really like going. Would you consider SCAR that place, like that you just like to go swim, or would that be more like your favorite event?
The place I love to go swimming is Africa, but we've got crocodiles and hippos, which are probably not. They're a bit bigger than I am, so I generally. I mean, I have looked at a few in South Africa, in Malawi, which this year it was cancelled. Might go next year, which is a 21 kilometer swim, I think it is, across Lake Tanganyika, I think it is. So I have looked at that one. My father's trying to get me to do Kariba, which is a lake where I'm born in Zimbabwe. It's the biggest man-made lake in the world, so it's a 300-kilometer swim. It would be a stage thing, but because it's full of crocodiles and that, I'd probably have to do it in a cage.
Wow. Yeah. Is that on the radar?
When my wife is not listening, yeah. I'd love to try it, but it's hot. The temperatures are really, really hot there. So I'd probably be swimming if I did ever do it, it'd probably be starting at 3:00 in the morning, sort of thing.
Oh wow, that's not even like a time of year.
I wouldn't be swimming. It's hot all year round there, so I wouldn't be swimming during the day. So I'd swim 3 till about 9, 10, and then maybe 4 till 6, sort of thing, in the afternoons. So it's not something you could do. You'd get totally roasted. You'd get totally, even with zinc oxide on, you'd get totally roasted.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
Oh man, yeah. Like I've gone back and forth on what my answer was to this was going to be.
I'll give you 2 or 3. It's okay.
Yeah, I know. Well, so I've only actually done like a handful of marathon swims. So like, there's not that many. I guess Boston Light is probably a favorite just because of the personal history that I have with it. I mean, like that epic failure the first year, and that was just me not knowing what I was doing. But then I did go back and complete it in 2014, and now I'm helping out Greg and Elaine. Well, helping out Elaine now in the organization of the event. But then last year I did a double of Boston Light. So you start on the beach in South Boston, and you swim out to the lighthouse and basically tag it and turn around and go back. And that might have been one of my favorites. It was I had actually wanted to do a really cold swim. Like I wanted to push the limits of how far can I swim when it's really cold. And so I chose to do the double in June, thinking June in Boston Harbor, it's going to be really cold, right? Like I wanted something in North Channel range temperatures. And then we had a heat wave and I showed up and the water was like 60. And I was like, okay, well, this is going to be fun. And so I'm swimming, and Greg O'Connor was my observer, and we're swimming along. And at one point I was like, Greg, you told me this would be a cold swim. And, it definitely wasn't. I mean, but I think it was one of my favorites. I did learn a lot that day. That was one of those days, when you get in the water and you just feel like crap. And like, it's nothing particular that you've done. It's nothing, you just feel bad. Like it happens in practice. It happens in training swims. It happened that day when I was going to swim 16 miles. And so that was a challenge, just to like mentally tell my body to shut up and keep swimming. I was still having fun, but it was like, I learned what it was like to kind of deal with that, because previously I had just kind of had relatively good news. I don't know, like that's not a very eloquent way of phrasing it, but so I guess that was fun. I liked getting out at the lighthouse and celebrating and realizing I had to swim all the way back. So. That's probably my favorite.
So my favorite event ever was the 2010 Boston Light Swim. I had never been in really cold water before, and I had never been in an event where, there were so many people that had done so many great things. And at Boston, if you've never done Boston Light Swim, everybody comes the night before and you have dinner together, and everybody gets up and introduces themselves and says what they've done. And I'm sitting there and people are going around the room and they're talking about, how they just got back from swimming the English Channel, or they just swam Catalina, or they just swam Manhattan. And I literally felt like just the biggest poser in the world. I was like, well, I swim across the Potomac River and I've done the Chesapeake Bay. And I just thought, oh my, like do not belong here. And when you take the boat out to Boston Light and the water was 56 degrees. And I thought, there's just no way I'm going to be able to do this. And when I came up on shore, 3 hours and 45 minutes later, or whatever it was, I was like, that was so awesome. I mean, I swam out there with all those great people and they've done so many cool things. And then I probably signed up for the Manhattan Island Marathon Swim. So I think the Boston Light Swim was like my favorite event ever. Just because it really, it launched this path that I've been on for the last 10 years.
How do you adapt to changing conditions?
I think because I've been swimming so many years, and I think because I've grown up swimming outside, I just naturally changed my stroke without actually thinking about it. I think the biggest change for me years ago was when I went to the North Channel, the first attempt when I was 18. That was the second time I'd swam in the sea. I'd done freshwater up until then. Quite a few years later, I went to Jersey in the Channel Islands to do a round island swim, and Sally Minty Gravitt laughed because she was like, why are you kicking out the water? But it was just because my body position was so wrong, because I'm that used to fresh water. And whereas now I've swam in the sea a lot more, I just changed my body position without thinking about it. My legs dropped down. So waves, I think I have a tendency to try and almost swim, because people keep on asking me and I'm like, I don't know what I do. So I've been concentrating when I'm swimming to try and work out what I do. And I think when it gets wavy, swimming into them, I almost try and swim downhill and push my shoulders down. And then when I'm swimming with them, I kind of lift my shoulders slightly. But I think too many swimmers just go out and train in good days. You need to go and train in those horrific conditions as well as the good conditions, so that when you're on a big swim, it doesn't matter what conditions come at you, you're fine with it and you just keep going.
Yeah, it's something that I've thought a lot about reading. There are some articles a couple years ago about endurance and women doing well in endurance sports. I mean, you look at someone like Sarah Thomas, and there's some women in ultra marathon running who are, doing as well as the men. And there's this equalizing factor at longer endurance distances for women and men, which I find fascinating. But I also find that what the places I go to be able to get through things are places that I've been to through personal experience as a woman. I wouldn't say childbirth, because that just happens so much, you just have no control over it. But there are things you can control in that. So there is part of that. But my divorce process was just endless. It was a marathon. There were aspects where I just had to be patient and wait for things to just sort of slow their course. But there were also times when my attorney would be I would just be so bullheaded and saying, this isn't fair, this isn't blah, blah, blah. And she'd say, Martha, it is what it is. And for me, it's yeah, it is what it is, and you've got to deal with it. And so I think that that's something that, when I pulled out of the Boston Light, it was it is what it is, I've got to pull out. And at first I was oh, I feel badly. I didn't set a good example for my kids because they're all there waiting at the finish. And then I was no way. My example for my kids is I care about my life and I'm pulling myself out, that there's this balance there. But, I do think I've done the Cork Distance Week twice now. And, just hearing people's experiences there and, I've never even dared do the torture swim because I'm scared of what's going to get thrown at me. I think if I go back, I'll do it. But the whole idea that you need to be ready for anything is something that, I've learned from life, and then I can also take it from swimming and apply it to life. I mean, I can't think of how many times I've thought about the term, it's the Dover coaster, thinking about this current pandemic situation, that it's just, so in some way you just got to ride with it and do the best you can. So, yeah.
Keep your head down and keep swimming. I don't know what else to do. Keep your head down and keep swimming. My dad, even sometimes we'll be out with a kayak, even this time of year when I'm not training crazy this summer. So, and I'm what's going on? What's going on? He's just do you mind just putting your head down and swimming? Yeah, okay, sorry. Sometimes I'll explain what's going on, or am I getting pushed? Yes, they're getting pushed that way. So go on that side of the kayak, because you have to. And we can have great training swims, but maybe because I don't know, I get weird luck. But my dad's learned a lot. We've learned a lot from different parts of the currents. Mm-hmm. So you just kind of keep swimming and try and adapt your stroke so it's at least comfortable and you think you're doing half decent technique. Mm-hmm. But I've never had to, we do have rip currents off the shore, which I've kind of got stuck in on my own, but I don't really know if it's a rip or an adverse current or something. And you just head for shore. If I try different angles if I have to get back to the shore, but there's no actual, you won't know what you're in sometimes if you're getting stuck in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate enough to never have any issues, and it's hard because even the lifeguards are great here, but people don't swim these distances. There's a few of us, but very few of us that will swim these kinds of distances.
Yeah.
And I almost always do it with a kayak anyway. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
I quite like bumpy, snarly, grizzly stuff. It's fun. It's part of why I think I'm so proud of the men from Agog swim, because I like having to tough it out,
Yeah. Kiwi in you.
So it's not about getting ticked at Mother Nature. It's about, what can my body and mind actually do? And for me, I've got bigger mental strength than physical strength. My mind will drive my body till it's got to go to the old ER. Just do it. So the first thing is for how do I deal with adversity? I work to identify that it's happening, and then I work on techniques to calm my mind when it's happening, and that can happen quickly or it can take a little bit of time. And from what I've found is how I react dictates how other people react around me. So if I want the best support and the calmest, soothest support, I've got to behave that way myself. When you asked me previously, about a crew and how you function, I don't flourish when people yell at me, or swear or curse. And I know some people, do it out of a reason to just jolt someone into giving a little more, but that's actually the opposite for me.
Yeah.
I'll probably shut down.
Yeah.
So adversity, it is how you react. And I got to be honest, it's pretty simple. I get up in the morning, I get my pants out, and I put them on one leg at a time. And I just go and say, all right, we're going to have another crack at it. And it could be professional, it could be my home life, or it could be a swim. I'm just going to take it one step at a time and just not freak out about next week, because next week's not here yet.
I try never to look a gift horse in the mouth. If it's really nice and flat, which a lot of people say, oh, I don't like swimming when it's nice and flat, it's too boring. One, I think they're lying. Two, when the conditions are like that, I sort of have a rule please, for the love of God, nobody say what a beautiful day it is, because then the weather gods or the current gods or the spirits that be will make it challenging. I think you just go with it. I find it, if it's going to be hard, I almost prefer it to be hard at the beginning and get easier. Because you're like, okay, I'm mentally prepared for this, versus having it nice and flat and then having it go choppy on you. But I mean, off swim, you're there for so long that you're going to experience it all. I mean, you're going to have a little bit of time where everything feels like it's easy and everything's coming together. And you're going to have times where you're cursing everything that lives and breathes. But that's, I think, part of why I love marathon swimming, because it's not consistent. It's not a controlled environment. And from 1 minute to the next, it can be completely different. And I mean, when I failed San Juan de Fuca, I failed. There was everything up there. Fog, rain, wind, completely flat calm, everything. And it was just like, let's get on with it. I failed because it was so foggy we couldn't see. We got within a mile of land and we couldn't see land.
Oh my gosh. That's
and we could hear the lighthouse and the foghorn.
Yeah.
And a boat passed within 200 meters of us, and then we didn't see it.
Oh my gosh.
At that point, the boat crew was like, I think we probably should call this for the day.
Oh my gosh.
Rightfully so, they should have.
I think you just kind of adapt automatically when you're in the conditions. You just breathe into the, I usually do unilateral breathing, but breathe into the opposite side, and just rolling a bit more with the waves and things when they come. I think it's something that I don't really tend to think about. It just happens. And I'm quite a stubborn person, so, I'm quite determined that I'm just going to keep going. Yeah. Like in the channel, after 7 hours, I got told they didn't think I was going to make it because I was getting taken west. And in fact, I get taken 8 miles west with a current.
Oh my God.
I just had all these things going through my head. I don't want to see my Admiralty chart. I don't want to see any photos. Somebody else can get my Admiralty chart. I'll never be doing it again. And then I just thought, I'm just going to keep swimming and see what happens.
So I don't know if it's over the years, especially with going to court, and you're presented with, you never know what you're going to get when you walk in the door. I've won cases that I should have lost. I've lost cases I should have won. I've, had conditions that I thought were going to be, better than they were or worse or vice versa. And so you just kind of have to go with it. I mean, you just go with whatever you're presented with. You're either going to keep going or you're going to stop. And I mean, you just choose to keep going. And I find I'm able to kind of just compartmentalize it and kind of put it over here. And you just focus on the goal and the task and you just keep moving ahead.
Thank you to Louise Darlington, Mark Spratt, Elaine Howley, Colleen Blair, Susie Dodds, Sarah Thomas, Elizabeth Almond, Kelly Latimer, Jesse Harowitz, Graham Schlachter, Martha Wood, Charlotte Bryn, Michelle Macy, Morag Hughes, and Courtney Polk for sharing your introspections on marathon swimming. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you were inspired by even just a moment of this story, please share it with a friend. You never know what might push someone out of their comfort zone so that they can find out what they're capable of. And please leave a review with your podcast provider. It truly helps others discover the raw and honest stories of these amazing endurance swimmers. Thanks for listening.